Mr. Speaker, this is what competent government looks like: fixing problems, not creating them, standing up for our overseas territories, not leaving them exposed, protecting Britain's interest abroad to ensure security and growth at home. With this agreement, Gibraltar will have easier access to the European economy. Their businesses can plan for the long term once again. Their citizens can feel reassured about their future. Britain's commitment to Gibraltar remains as solid as the rock itself. I commend this statement to the House.
Sir James Cleverly.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The right honourable gentleman will know, and he won't take this personally, that for the most part I think his government's ability to negotiate is appalling. And the only reason I have any confidence that this might be a good deal is because the government of Gibraltar were heavily involved. At some point in the future, this House, me included, will see the detail of this agreement, and I will know what red lines I stuck to when I was negotiating. So to save time and for the education of the House, could he, without going into details, just let us know, did the European, including Spanish positions, move closer to ours, or did we move closer to theirs in order to get this deal over the line?
Well, can I say to the right honourable gentleman that we strengthened this deal. And we strengthened this deal by putting in a sovereignty clause to ensure that there was no question about the sovereignty of Gibraltar and its relationship, its unique relationship as part of the family of the UK and the United Kingdom. And let me say too that we were able to reach a deal yesterday that the European Union and the UK had negotiated. And of course, we were ensuring that Fabian Picardo was in the room at every meeting. And of course, the European Union was ensuring that Spain was in the room at every meeting. And he will know that Gibraltar has been a block on our bilateral relationship with Spain. And this now is an opportunity for us to work with Spain and deepen that relationship, as we've been able to do with so many other countries across Europe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Just to probe this question of whether or not Spanish border officials, Foreign Secretary, have an effective veto on the entry of a British citizen from the United Kingdom landing on British sovereign territory in Gibraltar. I just want absolute clarity for everybody, please, in this House. Do Spanish officials have a veto or not? And secondly, could he comment on the dispute resolution mechanism and whether or not there is a regular review clause?
Well, can I say to the honourable gentleman that if he flew into Gibraltar Airport, and there was, and I don't know if he has flown in as I have, and there was an alert. I'm not sure why there might be an alert in the Schengen system, but if there were an alert in the Schengen system, can I reassure him that as he is stopped by the Spanish border guards operating on behalf of the European Union, that he would be handed back to the Gibraltars, where he might feel more comfortable. He would be able to access his rights and the legal system that he certainly feels comfortable with, which is ours, and he would be able to return to the United Kingdom, where no doubt the Spanish would seek to extradite him, and many in this House would be rather pleased.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Secretary of State first of all for his statement, but I have to ask this question because the similarities between Gibraltar and Northern Ireland are similar. As a nation who has had sovereignty issues in terms of European overreach in borders, Northern Irish people will feel the anxiety of this agreement. So can the Secretary of State outline what consideration has been given to the views of Gibraltarians and what consultation was held regarding the policy of a foreign nation on their soil?
Well, can I reassure the right honourable gentleman that our position of nothing about Gibraltar without Gibraltar gave those guarantees, and there were no meetings held, certainly under this government, but I'm quite sure it was under the last government as well, without the Chief Minister in the room, so that they were happy. And we would not have had a deal were they not happy. There would not have been a deal were the Chief Minister not able to stand up and say, I'm happy with this deal. That was the guarantee we gave them. And of course, we reflected on the issues that arose in relation to Northern Ireland.
It's encouraging that the Gibraltarians are receiving more in the way of consideration than the exiled Chagosians did. But when the Foreign Secretary says that a sovereignty clause was inserted, does this mean that Spain absolutely and explicitly recognises the sovereign relationship between Britain and Gibraltar? And if so, what has the reaction been of those elements that he referred to in Spanish politics that do not accept that relationship?
Well, absolutely. Spain do recognise the sovereignty of Gibraltar and its relationship with the United Kingdom in that agreement, and he will see that detail in the treaty, and he will know that the subject of dispute over many, many years, long before many of us were in this house, is really over the isthmus, where actually much of that territory that some would describe as neutral, others have different descriptions, exist between Gibraltar and Spain. Overwhelmingly, I think that there's been support for reaching this moment on both sides. I can't comment on the extremities of politics in Spain, but I'm sure these days you can look that up on social media.
And Mr. Speaker, the thoughts of the whole House will be with those affected by the plane crash in Ahmedabad in Gujarat and the emergency services at the scene. And I'd like to thank the Foreign Secretary for the assurances that he's already spoken of with the assistance that will be given to the families affected, as we know British nationals are involved. Mr. Speaker, on these statements, I want to pay tribute to the Chief Minister of Gibraltar, Fabian Picardo, and his team for the constructive way they have approached this issue. They have worked constructively with ministers in the last Conservative government to set out the negotiating position and red lines, with the UK recognising the choices that Gibraltar decided to make in their interest. The Chief Minister stated in a letter to the former European Scrutiny Committee that the UK and Gibraltar have never worked more closely together in delivering the outcome that the people of Gibraltar want. And as my noble friend, Lord Cameron of Trippin Norton, said when he gave evidence to that committee last year, Fabian Picardo and I joined up the hip, and we will not agree anything that we are not both comfortable with. The Foreign Secretary has acknowledged his predecessor's work and taken time to reflect upon and secure that outcome. Will the Foreign Secretary also acknowledge that this negotiating process has been frustrated by Spain, who, as we know, blocked these issues being resolved through the Brexit negotiations? His Majesty's opposition will judge the deal agreed on, whether it meets the aims and objectives that we outlined in government with Gibraltar, and once we see the full details. Our principles have been that nothing compromises or infringes on the sovereignty and constitutional arrangements of Gibraltar. It is to remain British. That we must be able to operate our base as we have done to safeguard our defence and interest. And the deal must be backed by the government of Gibraltar and its people to support their interests. It must also address the concerns about the actions of Spain to frustrate and prevent the free flow of goods. I've heard what the Foreign Secretary has said in his statement, and in the joint statement from the government of Gibraltar, the UK government and the EU Commission. And I have the following questions for him. Can the Foreign Secretary confirm that when will the House get to see the full details of the deal and the treaty? In a letter to the House of Lords International Agreements Committee, the Minister for the Indo-Pacific commented on the benefits of scrutiny of sharing the initial treaty text in advance of laying formally. So, given the importance of this issue, will the Foreign Secretary make a draft available to the House before signing? And will he commit to make parliamentary time available to debate the treaty? In relation to the red lines that the last government set with the government of Gibraltar, can he confirm if they have been met? or if during the course of the negotiations and since he took office last year, has there been any divergence from them? Can he give assurances that under this deal we will see a stop to the games that have been played by the Spanish that disrupt the border and the freedoms Gibraltarians should enjoy? While in the EU they cause disruption, so has he received commitments from Spain and the EU that this will never happen again? With in excess of 15,000 people crossing the border every day, it is vital for economic interests that a fluid border, which Gibraltar wants, is in place. And that is why, when we were in government, we respected the choice of Gibraltar to work to achieve this. On the military base, no mention is made of it in the joint statement, but the Foreign Secretary has referenced it. So can he confirm that nothing will be agreed that infringes on our ability to operate the base? And will members of our armed forces be able to access Gibraltar without needing Schengen checks? On the juxtaposed border controls, can he give more details about their practical operation and explain to the House, though, how they will work? And can Spanish officers stop a British citizen coming to stay in Gibraltar? Will British citizens' time staying in Gibraltar count against a 90-day Schengen limit? Finally, the joint statement issued has a list of areas in the agreement which include covering state aid, taxation, the environment, transport, the rights of frontier workers, social security cooperation, and financial mechanisms on training and employment. But there is a lack of detail. When will these details come forward? When will we be able to scrutinise them? Does this put Gibraltar in a customs union with the EU? What does this mean for VAT? And will there be any provisions that will require Gibraltar or the United Kingdom to pass legislation, including to enact any EU law? Conservatives will always defend British sovereignty and the rights of Gibraltar and will continue to scrutinise the details of this deal so that nothing undermines this.
Yeah. Foreign Secretary.
Well, I'm very grateful to the Shadow Foreign Secretary for the tone of her remarks. She's absolutely right to pay tribute to Fabian Picardo, the Chief Minister of Gibraltar, who has been fantastic to work with throughout. And as I said to him, nothing about Gibraltar without Gibraltar, and he has been in the room on every single occasion that these talks have been conducted. And I am grateful, as I said, to previous Foreign Secretaries for the briefing that they were able to give me in office particularly. And can I be clear that on the military base, it will continue to operate as it does today. There will be zero change. It's vital for UK national security. It's protected by this agreement, and that was a red line for us throughout these negotiations. Can I also say, she says, did the arrangement change with a change of government? The red lines that were set out by the Gibraltar government, no, is the answer. The only thing that changed was that I insisted that there was a sovereignty clause, and when the treaty is published, she will see that sovereignty clause. She asked to how quickly we will be able to share the treaty. We hope to do that as quickly as possible. She will recognise there is a lot of technical detail working with lawyers to draft that treaty and between the European Union and Spain to ensure that the language is aligned in that treaty, but we will work as quickly as we can to get to that point. She asks about the parliamentary scrutiny that you would expect, and can I assure her that we will follow, as is right, the CRAG process, and that Parliament will have its ability to fully scrutinise that treaty, and of course, if Parliament wishes to debate the terms of that treaty, as she would expect. She asks about Schengen. As I said in the statement, this was never on the table. Immigration, policing and justice in Gibraltar will remain the responsibility of the Gibraltar authorities, and can I give her that assurance? She asks about VAT. Can I assure her that Gibraltar will not be applying VAT and will maintain its fiscal sovereignty? She asks about 90 days. and the 90-day rules, because there will, in effect now, not be checks at the land border. It is right, of course, for those who are Gibraltar nationals, they come, they stay as long as they want. But for those who are, say, travelling into Gibraltar from Spain, or those who are arriving in Gibraltar at the airport, the 90-day rule will apply across both Gibraltar and Spain. I can confirm that. I recognise that these issues do touch upon the issues that dominated this House and this Parliament following the decision to leave the European Union, which was, of course, a decision that did divide the nation. But this moment, this deal, this arrangement that had Gibraltar in the room is a conclusion to that period. And I'm very grateful for the tone that the official opposition have taken.